I am running errands, but I was sent this video, and it goes with the other videos that I've posted about the crisis of men. But I'm going to use a video, a YouTube video, and I want you to watch this YouTube video. I sped it up a little bit because, yeah, I just sped it up. But I want you to listen to this. And yes, I am coming back on the back end to have a discussion.
That means that things that we're experiencing today, whether it's the breakdown of marriage, or it's the rise of unemployment, or it's friction between the genders, or it's socioeconomic inequality, whatever, they have been a long time coming. And when I say long time coming, I don't mean a decade. I mean multiple decades. And really the fulcrum point around which so many things changed was the 1960s. So in the 1960s, there were two critical changes. You might say they were cultural antecedents that began the ball spinning in the wrong direction. And in the context of men and women, they were birth control and second wave feminism. Birth control decoupled sex from marriage in ways that I don't think many people even today properly understand. Now, it is the case that Jordan Peterson and Rollo Tomasi and many people like that talk about the consequences of birth control, and they're quite right to do so. But at a very basic level, birth control allowed women to choose short-term casual sexual partners that had nothing to do with long-term commitment. And since women are the sexual selectors, that completely reshuffled the sexual marketplace in ways that we're still living with today. That happened in the 1960s. What also happened in the 1960s was the rise of second wave feminism. And second wave feminism decoupled femininity from marriage. In fact, it claimed more or less that marriage and motherhood were disempowering to women, that they were in some respects constraining or oppressive to women, and that the patriarchy had convinced or conveyed to women that marriage and motherhood were essential in order to oppress them. These very destructive ideas have compelled women to act against their nature, to deny the very things that give them power, like motherhood, like fertility, and ultimately the union that is marriage. In addition to those cultural antecedents, men have experienced a consistent decline of socioeconomic power. Now, a lot of that started in the 1980s because during the 1980s, the country's economic structure completely changed. So manufacturing jobs went overseas. The financialization of the economy really began, meaning to get that house, to get that car, to get that college degree, you borrowed money. You didn't pay for it out of pocket anymore, which really meant that your life was borrowed. It was an artificial construct of sorts that you leverage credit to finance. That culture persists to this very day. In addition to that, we have various political antecedents. The most recent, of course, that we're all dealing with today is wokeism. And what wokeism has advocated is the decoupling of men or masculinity from leadership. So if you add these two or three different categories, this cultural antecedents, political antecedents, and socioeconomic antecedents, men have fallen through this crack in which they're disempowered at work. They don't have the jobs that they used to have. They don't have the socioeconomic power they used to have. At the same time, women are more empowered in many respects because they have more money, they're more active at university, they go into the corporate sector and so forth. Women are weaponized against men because of wokeism. Because wokeism teaches women that men are a threat, and that if men are being masculine, if we're being leaders, that somehow is oppressive to women. This smorgasbord has created a cocktail of constraint, of limitation, of frustration in the psyches of men, who in many respects deny that some of these changes have occurred. So you have men that are clinging on to this paradigm of marriage between a man and a woman, thinking that somehow the attitudes, the inhibitions, or the constraints that women used to feel, the social sanctions against cheating or against mate switching or whatever you want to call it, are still there. And unfortunately, they're gone, which is in part why marriage today as an institution has completely fallen apart. For younger men on the way to marriage or on the way to longer term relationships, we also have to contend with online dating.
So this man is talking about the fall of men, and he is using women's gains and women's issues to convey why men are failing. And this is what they continue to do. And this man, to me, because I watched his whole video, I only gave you like half of it or maybe a third of it. But he sounds just like an educated manosphere person because they have such an issue with women getting their rights. I'm sorry, our rights, women having the right to birth control and feminism. That is what conservative Christians talk about the men. That's what the manosphere, the manosphere was actually built on evangelical talking points that masculine is the opposite of feminine. And so when we got our rights to control our reproductive system, that is an event that happened but it's an event that men see completely differently than women see. He's talking about it decoupled sex from marriage. Well, what if women didn't want to be married? What if women just simply did not want to have that amount of kids? Why men men attributing their opinions to what women do instead of actually listening to women is their issue. And then he talks about feminism and how it decoupled femininity from marriage. Once again, why do these people think that everybody wants to be married? And then he talks about femininity and he just keeps juxtaposing femininity and masculinity. And as women gain more rights, this is looked at as such a bad thing because men compare women to them, like they compare. And so as women, they see it as a zero sum game. So as women incline a little bit, it's like the comparison issue that they have. They see that there must be less to attain because now women have control. And when he goes on to talk about wokeism and that decoupled masculinity or whatever he said that he mentioned that now he mentioned men being leaders. Simply being born with a peen is not what being a leader is. And so at this particular point, men are going to have to actually learn some skills of being a leader as opposed to their appendage that they were born with. And when women are like, yes, second wave feminism gave us the opportunity to, go to school. And we've talked about this, go to school, get more jobs, have more access to money. And now we can control our lives. And so they are seen as that, they see that as a threat because now we have choices. Before we had to have a man simply for survival. Now we can choose a man simply because we want one, not because society deems that we have to have one to survive. And so what men are not doing is figuring out how to survive without having an unequal playing field where women are second class citizens and where being born with a peen gives them privileges that were unearned. They are struggling. They are failing and flailing because they were getting used to having unearned privileges of having a peen. And now they don't have that because women took the opportunities for reproductive control and financial control and ran with it. And when you talk to women about why we wanted financial independence, why we wanted control of our own bodies, what birth control means to us, it is simply different than what they say it is, what they interpret it to be, because they don't listen to women. And they will continue to fail and flail as men because they keep using women's accomplishments as a barometer for men failing. And so that is going to be their continued downfall because women are not going to go backwards. The rest of it, like I said, it sounds like manosphere talking points. Women want men with money and men don't have that much money. And it's sad. They are sad people. Even the smartest ones that can speak and actually use commas and grammar are sad because they see women's accomplishments and women choosing to opt out of marriage as a litmus test to their manhood. Not all women want marriage. Not all women see their fertility as their power. Not all women place, uh, femininity and masculinity and what is leadership into these boxes. And so men will continue to fail until they learn how to define themselves outside of what women are doing. Y'all jump in the comments and tell me what you think. Like, comment, share.